Hi, welcome everybody to Reframing Our Desires. I'm Campbell X. It said I'm the chair. I'm sitting on a chair. I am. um, Next to me on the top is Natasha Verona, who made the film Umbilic. Underneath me, bottoming, bottoming me. It's about reframing desires after all. It's Topher Campbell, the director of Fetish. And next to Topher is Diego Paulino, the director of Blackness, Negrum. Right. So, sorry for being late, technical issues, the usual thing for being, the new normal in our little capsules online. Believe it or not, Topher and I are in Sheffield, and we're in the same we're in the same location.
No, over there.
Topher's over there, but in different sections of it.
Yeah.
Natasha is in Glasgow, and Diego is in Sao Paulo.
Yep.
Yeah. I got that all right. So we'll go straight into our discussion. I wanted to talk to you, Natasha, first about your film Umbilic, which is very dreamy and almost in a spiritual memory kind of meditation-like sphere, the bottom of the ocean. And I just want you to say a little bit about your film and why you made it, because some people might be here, but they might not have attended the program of films last night. So just a little bit about your film. We're just going to go around to do that in order to bring people up to speed in a way.
Yeah, so how would I describe the film? So I've been researching into Black geography since the end of 2019 and making works about Scottish landscapes or, using Scottish sites or landscapes as the idea of reimagining Black existences and histories on them and kind of alluding to Scottish Black histories as well. So then I was really drawn to water as part of that research, and I started thinking about Drexia and the myth of this underwater world that inhabited the children of pregnant slaves who were thrown overboard during the Middle Passage. And that really got me thinking about like these ideas like other worlds and other spaces that we can inhabit in and feel kind of at home in, or I suppose colonize for ourselves and be kind of in a community. So the film is really takes that as like quite a strong point of it. So it kind of, yeah, I guess there's a lot of this underwater kind of digital world that I've created where I'm speaking and I'm speaking in different tenses, and I guess as well it has a script that goes along with it that kind of has these different voices, perhaps through fonts and in italics, and communicates all these different kind of people that I've maybe channeled. So thinking about water spirits as well, but really it's a mediation on Scottish Black history and like relating that to water, and also like a wider lens of like the Black Atlantic, but thinking about the Scottish Black Atlantic, and I think really just situating Scotland within that discourse and like context. So yeah, it's drawing from a lot of different readings that I did over the last year and bringing them together and thinking about citations and references, this kind of poetry and these linkages between all these different networks that we can create through reading and writing and making and through our artworks.
Thanks. And I programmed that in the context of this desire because being part of the transatlantic slave trade and the kidnapping, capturing of our bodies and our bodies being used for capital, but also our reproductive abilities being harnessed for the transatlantic slave trade, I think had an impact on our sexuality, desires, how we negotiate our bodies within a contemporary setting, and also how our bodies are used by mainstream media as well, in film and TV, but also sport and entertainment too. It's all connected to the Black Atlantic. So, Diego, if you can speak about, I can hear laughing, can you? I can hear some other sounds, but
Yeah.
There's some
maybe.
people in the background. There are some people in the background.
Oh, is it you? Is it you? Okay. Okay, fine. Diego, I want to talk about blackness, which it does what it says on the tin, but your film interrogates blackness within queerness and within bodies that have been excluded from mainstream culture in a way. So not just mainstream white culture, but mainstream black culture too,
Mhm.
and centering us within that very same culture, like you refer to black spirituality within queerness, within black queerness, and frame it in that magical way. So can you speak a little bit about like why you made blackness and how how it came about to do that?
Oh yeah. When in 2018, when I was about to make Negrumi, I was really interested in how to present my community in a positive way, in a different way, in a way that was really beyond hyper super. So with the Afrofuturistic approach, I was really interested in to put this to put this queer community in São Paulo, this young queer community in São Paulo, in a way that they were having fun and also making politics, because I don't know, blackness is really about the our outfits, the way that we present ourselves, and the way that we can recreate ourselves and our image to reclaiming our desires, to reframing our desires. So that was the idea, to present the São Paulo black queer youth in a way that validates that we have our blackness as well, and we have our queerness as well, and that they are two things together. They cannot go apart. And also, I was really interested in the magic behind it, the sci-fi, the technology behind our relationships, the way that we speak, the way that we meet each other, the way that we present ourselves, the way that we sing. So I have put all this together in a film that tries to be a memory of of São Paulo queer youth. I don't know. I think in 20 in 200 years, maybe you cannot say that they were not black people living together and being happy in São Paulo because I made a film about it. So it's going to be on internet in some years, and it's going to be eternal. So blackness was my approach to really do a portrait of my community. And in a way that I was really, in a way that I was like excited about it, in a way that I was excited about to watch it, in a way that was really artistic and aesthetic. So I think that's something that I was thinking when I was making this film.
Thank you. And to Topher, your film, the character of Fetish, who walks around New York completely naked, nude, the character has it's a black male nude walking around, and at some point there's writing on his body saying, some of us won't get out alive, when we get out alive. Knowing that the black male body is desired, held up as the epitome of masculinity and desirability, but it's also violated by the state and curtailed and policed. It's a very powerful film, and please do tell us kind of like your feelings behind this film, and the sound as well, the soundscape too, because it's not just about the visuals, it's about the sound.
Yeah, I mean, it's a film that I was invited to do by both the Video Jam, who are a collective based in Manchester, and the Barbican, to respond to the big exhibition, Retrospective, of Jean-Michel Basquiat's work. And I kind of took that opportunity because I felt that Basquiat had lots of similar, but slightly on a larger canvas, if you like, experiences to me when I was young, as a sort of somebody who was a black man in a kind of artistic context, who was seen as unique and different. And in my case, it was in performance and theatre. But at the same time, I was also responding to, at the time, ideas and notions of violence, of course, towards the black body. And so these two things, this idea of violence done towards the black body, and also the desire and fetishization and the exceptional kind of context in which black people can find themselves, especially in the Western cultural scene. I don't know, something came out of that. Plus this idea that, like Diogo, really, I've got this kind of fascination with Afrofuturism, and I love sci-fi and cheap sci-fi, and the Godzilla and the Man Who Fell to Earth, which isn't cheap, it's a fantastic film, and Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, all those amazing sci-fi movies. And on top of that, I have this kind of history of traveling around the world, including Sao Paulo and Rio de Janeiro and London and New York and Paris and on and on and on. And one of the things I still do, and I did a little bit with some Sheffield yesterday, is walk around the city, to discover the city, because in walking around you approach it on a human scale, and you approach it with surprise and discovery. So there's all these things happening at the same time in my head. So I guess Fetish is a sort of an attempt to look at blackness in a different kind of way because of that, I guess. And even to think about film language that includes blackness centered in a way that isn't necessarily appreciated. And the idea around Fetish being unclothed was because, I don't know, I'm trying to remember what was the impulse. I think it was because, and I think in retrospect, the art critic and Bonnie Greer said that Fetish is a stunning piece. It's about stunning. And I think that's very much in relationship to the emotional stunning that you get when you hear about deaths in police custody, or as it happened in Rio de Janeiro recently, the 24 young men who were slaughtered in a recent raid on a favela, or the continuing objectification and disidentification of where we come from as black people in a Western context. But beyond that, I wanted to sort of kind of explore the idea of not so much transcendence, but kind of the African DNA of my roots, if you like. They're a part of me, so my West African DNA, and to sort of find a space to express how a being like Fetish can connect across centuries and predated the colonial era. So there's a sort of a lot in there which I can talk about now in retrospect, which I didn't really understand when I was making it. So that's some of where Fetish sits, really.
Great, thanks very much. And because I programmed this in the festival because I think there's a lack of conversation about these very issues, the way in which black bodies are at once fetishized and desired, but at the same time subject to violence. And this is not a contemporary issue. This has come, from, the transatlantic slavery times. And so hence Natasha's films through to, Batteria, through to, Negrumi, through to Fetish, and The Attendant. So it's a question for everybody, but it comes mainly from Natasha's film and Batteria, in which, do you think there's a way of framing desire? Because Natasha, in your film, you speak about desire as well, without showing the body. Is it necessary to show the body, particularly when we've been colonized so much around a way of seeing ourselves? Maybe to not see ourselves as the power. I just wanted to know what you all might think of that, as just throwing it in there.
I think it's interesting because I chatted to someone, or someone was saying to me about my film, that there aren't people present in it. There are people, but there's no person. There's no one person in it, or there's no face that you see. There are kind of hints towards bodies, my body within it, but there is a really abstract feeling of like this lack of people within it. And I didn't really think of that at the time. It's kind of a voiceover, I suppose, that has all these images. But yeah, I think I was playing around with words for that, and thinking about words as this kind of way of conveying desire and alluding to things or creating pictures for people that hint at desire. I think there's elements of water that feels like that, water has such a kind of evil and toxic history within it, and also contemporary kind of relationship, but also there's maybe this act of like reclaiming that and thinking about like being like wet and in water, and what does that mean. And I think that, yeah, I tried to kind of create that through like luscious kind of imagery and this underwater world, and yeah, like I say, for kind of poetics as well. And that was my way of kind of conveying that desire, and finding that harmony with water and that desire for water again, after kind of dealing with all these like, or reading about these horrible pasts and knowing about these horrible pasts. How can I kind of move forward with my relationship with water? And I guess that kind of relates to the wider kind of scope of this landscape.
Thank you. Have you, Topher? I think you're on mute, darling.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Mm-hmm. Just to say that with Fetish, I guess there's a kind of a way of trying to, because the thing is that black people are, black. I can talk about myself in terms of a man. You're never. People always have to guess who you are. You never automatically. People don't automatically know who you are. So in a sense, you're already debodied. You're already your body is already kind of under either underestimated, overestimated, or ignored. So in a sense, fetish is also kind of a space in which the body gets broken down. There's a kind of a breaking down of the very vessel by which this character, this multidimensional being, is kind of if you like, commodified or kind of consumed. As and I think you can look at the ways in which then in the first tranche of black modelling, it was always sports kind of representation for the big commodifying companies like Nike and Adidas and Puma and so on and so forth. And the idea of us being active and bulk, and then we've come into this era of kind of beauty and representation of kind of otherness of beauty. So there's never a sense in which the body really has a kind of is really seen, if you know what I mean. So it's almost like that. So fetish is he sort of or it or they sort of breaks down and breaks apart. And I guess that is kind of also what I'm trying to say. So it's kind of this weird thing where you've got this incredibly strong presence, physical presence on screen, but it's constantly jarring you away from its own presence to ask you to think differently about what you're seeing. Yeah, so I guess that's something that I've noticed in retrospect. I don't think it was something I kind of was aware of when I was making the film so much.
Yeah, and it's also the thing about seeing this very beautiful body of Fetish played by Topher Campbell body, but but also having that jarring to take you away from your body,
Yeah,
to take you away from
definitely.
the visual.
Definitely, but it's a definite confrontation of your own senses. It's a definite trying to say, you see this and you want to see this, as in the beauty and whatever and the strength. But what you're also seeing at the same time is this vulnerability and this kind of restlessness and this other I won't say otherworldliness, I will say other timeliness about it. So you're constantly in this place, and so it's a confrontation because I come, I personally come, I come packaged in a cisgendered, slightly, quite conventional body, really. So it's not something that, and also the idea of desire and wanting to be desired that fetish plays with. The idea that, this is something that, I spoke to a friend of mine, and we were talking about objectification, particularly, in the same-sex context. And it was like, same-sex desire context. It was like, well, he used to say, well, I like being desired. I thought, yeah, well, I like being desired as well. We do like being loved. We do like being looked at. But how we can't control that, and we can't kind of police it, and we don't always know how to contain it either, because it has consequences for us which are unknowable. And privileges as well, So there's this kind of space in which you inhabit attention constantly of the kind of the possibility of what your body might manifest in the real world. And I think that's what Fetish is doing with us when he confronts us so viscerally with his or their presence.
Yeah, exactly. And in a way, Natasha's work and Damien's in Batteria, there's no bodies, but Natasha, your work's about water and wetness, and that's also kind of that can be gendered in a way because of the excitement of wetness and fluidity and flowing, in terms of desire. So you don't see something, it's more about the feeling, but also the fear. And speaking of fear, Diego, in your film at the very beginning, there was the kind of idea of fear of the gender non-conforming body, because we can't talk about queer desire without speaking about bodies that are viscerally and visually queered because of how we see bodies, in our culture. What's the right body? What's the hot body? And in queer culture, that's also very prevalent on people's minds. So can we talk a little bit about that? Because at the beginning, it was all like, whoa, the very beginning of the film, and then it went into another space.
Yeah. At the beginning of the film, I was really thinking about body dysphoria because it's quite hard being queer and black in Latin America. So when you add fatness in this, I don't know, like a body that's not normative in this equation, everything is more complicated. So when I was talking to Eriki, the actress of the film, the young one, she she asked me to make this performance about how hard it is for us to look at the mirror. So I had this idea of looking, because for me every morning is really hard to look at the mirror and confront yourself and confront your blackness, your body, your queerness, everything. So in the beginning of the film, we want to bring this fear, this horror of the broken glass looking at you. But even though the glass is broken, the mirror is broken, you can see a lot of yourselves, a lot of different ones. So even though it's broken, there's possibility, there's ways that I can grow. And so the beginning of the film, it's called Mirror. The film is divided in three parts: the mirror, the communion, and the future. So in the mirror, we want to talk about the past, how people, how queer Black people in Brazil use it to live. I want to believe that they use it to live that way, that we are more empowered now. So, and it's kind of, it's a horror movie. It's a horror movie when you look at the mirror and you don't see yourself. Or you look at the mirror and you see different ones, but neither of them are you. So talking to Eric and talking to my sound designer as well. The sound is really important in that part because I want to bring this atmosphere of fear and sadness and terror with by the sound, because you cannot escape it, because if it's visuals, you just have to close your eyes, even the theater. But if it's sound, you cannot escape it. You have to embrace the experience and going through that. So I was, yeah. His body dysphoria is kind of this starving, the starving. I don't know how I say it. The starving routine of every day being faced by a glass that don't like you, and how I can change that, and how I can take control of this narrative, and I don't know, remake myself, remake my body, remake my image to be able to go to the streets, to be able to go to being a black body walking through São Paulo, and everyone's looking at me. But right now I'm wearing a shield in armor to be protected, to find the ones that love me. So because this is so fearful in that beginning, I had to put that there, because you cannot have the end of the film with all the lights, all the singing, all that stuff, if I don't have the beginning and the show how I can go through that, how I can look at the mirror and see that I I am enough without that mirror. Even though that mirror is broken, I am enough, and I have other thousand possibilities to be whoever I want to be.
Absolutely, and it is a fabulous, like, sci-fi, futuristic African spirituality, camp, queer, gender non-conforming, you know, um, Follies ending. I want to ask, what do you crave to see in terms of Black queer desire as shown on the screen? Because, doing the research for this programming, I couldn't find a lot of examples in mainstream, let's say mainstream media, of Black queer desire. And I mean Black, either, dealing with Blackness, or in terms of Black people expressing desire for each other. It's normally in a context where they're expressing desire for the not Black. And I don't know if anybody has a comment on that. So Diego, you're like, everybody's like, let's get into it. So who wants to go first? Jump in. Diego, I can't hear you, man. I cannot hear you.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
I don't know. As Marlon Riggs said, black man loving black man is a revolutionary act. So we gotta be loving. It's really rare to see black desire on screen. Actually, no. We see a lot of black desire, but not black desire for black bodies.
That's what I mean. Let's get into it. Yeah, Black desire for Black bodies, especially in queerness.
I think that they are trying to have us apart, to have us in different spaces, and because but love is really powerful. So black love is really powerful as well, and we can create a lot of things together. We can create communities based on love, based on desire. So I'm really I really look. I'm really looking. There's a lot of noise. I cannot pay attention.
I don't know where the noise is coming from. Maybe Topher, like mute while yeah, we're listening. Do mute because yeah,
There you go.
okay, yeah.
Thank you very much. So I'm really looking forward to see black men loving black men, black trans men, black loving black trans men. I don't know. These images we haven't seen. We haven't. We, our imagination are colonized in a way that we cannot desire ourselves. So when I cannot feel love for a black person as me, I cannot feel love for me, because if I cannot find someone who's black beautiful and desirable, I'm not finding myself beautiful and desirable. So it's kind of tacky, but we have to love ourselves before we love somebody else. And there's the system, the racism that say that we are not lovable, that we are undateable, that we are undesirable. So I think that film has a really important role in normalize this desire for ourselves and for the black community, and us and depict this, and not only ideal relationships but broken ones as well. Like we can have we just have to be able to have relationships within ourselves, and to be able to be failed, to be able to be broken, to be able to be lovable. I think I haven't seen enough of Black Desires. I'm really excited for the approach that the television, international televisions, in a way that they are trying to depict this desire as well. It's a in 2021 we have the Lil Nas X with Montero, and it's a groundbreaking music video, and it's a 3 minute long,
That's why I programmed
and
it. Yeah, absolutely. That's why I programmed it. It blew my mind. I blew my mind. Yeah.
It's Black Desire is Demon Desire is is everything. So I think we have to be producing this image of desire, of love, to be able to have this catalog of reference to love ourselves and to love our friends. And I'm not talking about only desires like sexual desires, but friendship relationships and blood relationships. I think they want us to be broken and to be not to be together. So I think we have to work in this togetherness and this desire, and cinema and film are a great way to manipulate these images and these imaginations for the community to come.
Thank you.
I think
I was going to say, just before you start, Topher, people drop your questions, drop your comments and questions, because we've got a bit of time at the end for that. So keep them coming, keep them coming. I see them here. So Topher, what you?
Sorry, just in response to what you're saying, I am staying. I just maybe a bit of Atmos because I am in an open space here.
Yeah.
So I mean, my thing is that in the English-speaking world, there's a lot of production around. I don't know if it's queer desire, but same-sex desire that are being produced, you know, in short form on the internet, not on various qualities for us, you know, and there's enterprises out of the United States like Tyson Plus or A-Connect TV who are creating work, and there's also a legacy of filmmakers such as Patrick Ian Polk, Quincy and DeAndre, Linnea, and of course people like Dee Reese and various others. Dee Reese, and including yourself. So it's kind of also where you look for it. I kind of don't want to, you know, something that is mainstream, the Moonlights or the Superstar that's becoming or that's next. Those are really important spaces. But we have been generating our images ever since the internet started, or that the bandwidth was available to us, or the technical equipment was available of various degrees. So the fact that the mainstream ignores it or is not interested in it because it's either considered niche or there's kind of there's conversations around whether it kind of can grab an audience or make money. Those are all kind of ongoing conversations, you know. And I think so. I don't like this idea of kind of good and bad. I think there's a kind of a maelstrom of images that are coming through, and also you know, even when you go back to, you know, a generation, you can go back to Marlon, and you can go Marlon Riggs, and you can go back to Watermelon Woman, you can go back to, you know, and so histories around what Isaac Julian was doing and various other people. So I think I kind of just be careful about the kind of saying there's nothing out there. There's a huge amount.
No, that's not what I said. I didn't say there's nothing out there.
Yeah.
I said in the mainstream, what you see is a dearth. And
definitely.
You know, a lot of the examples that you mention are they're not really mainstream.
Yeah, but I question.
They're films that people might know about, and it's interesting. A lot of queer people, even in the UK, hadn't heard of Young Soul Rebels or Looking for Langston. You know, we mention Moonlight, but that has come through a kind of Hollywood system. Yeah,
awesome.
And so I think we have to be careful in the balance thing, that we also think of films outside of the USA and not just the USA being central to our dialogue about Black queer desire.
Or even sorry to cut you, but even not just the English-speaking world. But I think what I'm saying, what I'm trying to say is also that there is a huge amount of value in those images, that just because they're not mainstream, that they shouldn't be necessarily they shouldn't be highlighted. And I don't personally have an argument that the mainstream giving some kind of sanction to the image makes it any better or worse in terms of its effect and its kind of influence on my work as an artist. And just to say that I'm also creating work, my next piece of work, which is around HIV, stigma and desire, is all about reproducing images of desire of black and brown bodies for each other, and black and brown kind of expression of desire isn't always just around the sex act, but about the desire to be with each other, to be intimate with each other, and then that film's called Encounters. So I feel like you, Diego, we do have to make our own images, and I think that's also it's also true that the very thing that kind of is disruptive about our bodies in real life is also disruptive about our work in the industry. You know, it's the same things play out, and we have to have the same kind of conversations about, you know, how we are, I don't like to use the word represented, how we are kind of platformed, if you like, on larger, expensive spaces or channels. And I think, you know, we still have those kind of problems. There's just blatant racism and there's blatant homophobia, you know, and there's blatant misunderstanding or misrepresentation of what we want. All there's this constant sort of commissioning or kind of, you know, developing around, you know, what the patriarchal, you know, mainstream kind of view of what is worth it. And I, as a filmmaker, as an artist, I don't want to really engage with that so much, because that just breaks my energy. I want to try and find ways of making the work and seeing it get out wherever I can make it.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thanks for that. And Natasha, have you got any comments around what we've been discussing?
Yeah, I was just thinking maybe in response to what Diego was saying about kind of non-sexual ideas of desire and desire being in different forms and being between friends or lovers and all these different ways, or for ourselves as well. I think just being able to see that on film and on screen, hopefully more, would be excellent. And also just a range and a spectrum of like gender identities and sexualities and them coming together and things there's just being so much more kind of representation out there, but also representation and representation by us and by the people that are lived experiences and are knowledgeable. And I just really liked what Diego was saying, especially.
Absolutely, because I think something about queer desire or queering desire is about the love of self, but also about community and creating kinship and family, which can come through our chosen families and people that we have activism in. Desiring isn't just about the sex act or sexuality, even though that's a thing, and you can bake a cake in a sexual way. Do you know what I mean? You can cook a meal for somebody. There are ways in which it can permeate our whole lives, but there's also a way in which we queer things that are normative, like family, like the sense of home, which is also about desire. And then how do we come together as Black people in creating those desiring spaces where we all in our bodies feel at home, and loved, and how do we create that? Well, I was told there's 15 minutes left. Thanks, Miranda. So I'm coming to some comments and questions. Somebody from Obscure Films asked, this is a question for Topher, but thank you all for your amazing films. Topher, could you speak more on the combined Bolex GoPro camera featured in Fetish? It felt like it emerged from the ideas of queer temporalities.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know about that, but it emerged from a playfulness, really, about filmmaking as well, and it emerged from this kind of a small conversation around who creates the images and who are the images for. Back to what we were saying, whose desire, whose image, who's framing, who's doing what. So at some point, I wanted Fetish to have an instrument of a recording instrument, a film camera that would kind of film himself or their self at the same time as we're seeing them, and this idea of there being this constant multiple kind of lens on us all, technological lens and cultural lens, and somehow we don't. It's like a loop. Somehow, we don't know where it begins and where it ends, and so who has the power of it? So, there's the giant fetish in the sky looking down on the little fetish walking. I mean, it's the kind of world we live in, isn't it? Really, and so it's something to do with that, really, and also obviously the fact, going back to the Will Smith thing, that around racism is getting worse. It's being filmed. The idea that what is worth it is recorded. What is worth it is seen. If it isn't seen, it's not worth it. I don't quite know. I'm not a cultural critic, but I guess there's something around that kind of conversation in the piece as well, which is to say, there's a witness. There's something to see. Look at this. What is it? And then it looks back at us. And so there's power in the image and the producing the image. So yeah, that's kind of what it was really.
There's something about that though, because I've been thinking about what is seen and what is not seen. And is there a way in which we're being seen only in terms of trauma and pain, but we're not being seen in terms of joy and pleasure? I don't know if anybody's got a comment on that. Natasha?
I would just say absolutely. I think that's the thing, isn't it? I think people are so keen to kind of sell the stories on the trauma, and that feels easier in a lot of ways, as opposed to showing the actual relationships that are formed and that build, and the community, like we were saying before, and the different sorts of representations, it does feel like that's maybe the easy story. And I think it's important to tell those stories as well, but I think that counterbalance of not always having the trauma or the trauma or the difficult kind of histories or stories, and a way to kind of merge and balance things out, I think is important. And that's at least what I tried to do with Umbilic, is not kind of feel really, I didn't want it to be super sad, because I'm dealing with all these histories, and I was putting them together, and I was obviously doing a lot of research on that and reading about really difficult things, but also, yeah, that kind of counterbalance of, okay, but out with that, there can be joy and there can be desire, and we're all connected in these ways and we're not alone, I think was really a big thing that I was trying to kind of communicate through it, is that we've always been here, especially in a Scottish context. We've always been here. We've always been around and doing things. And yeah, so I think, yeah, trying to find that balance and offer kind of a positive, hopeful kind of message or point of view across, which is, yeah, kind of the speculative fiction aspect of it as well, is like looking into this future, and thinking about, okay, so this is where we are, we have been, we are now, what can be next?
Thanks. Deborah asks, loved all your films so much. Thank you. Wanted to ask about sound and music. Felt like it was an integral part of all the works and really transported you to a variety of worlds. So you've got to say this all really quickly because we've got 10 minutes left. And unless you all have burning questions, please send your questions in, but we haven't got that much time left. So what do you think, Diego? Because I'll go to you first.
Yeah, the music was a concern since the beginning to the film, because I cannot talk about Black culture without talking about Black music, especially in Brazil, especially I think ever like in the whole world. So to take everyone in this spatial travel, in this, I don't know, this spaceship that's Negrumi, I had to use like black electronic music like techno, house, and Brazilian funk, because this music is the sound of the machine, is the sound of the robotics, is the sound of the labor. So when I talked to Jonathan, the music producer, his research is in Brazilian funk. He talked to me that the African diaspora, the Brazilian Africa diaspora, we are reclaiming like these technologies and the making music through machines and making music through something that's not made for making music. So for Negrumi was a major role to bring this sensation and this atmosphere, because São Paulo is really musical as well, and I'm talking about the night, the club night scene in São Paulo as well. Topher knows it. So, and everyone in the film, like Aretha, Eric, and Felix, they are all artists in the nightclub scene, and they all perform in the São Paulo scene, and they all sing, and so music was so important as the image on the film, because I was trying to use the music as a storytelling device to go to another realms of existence and bring another sensations to the film. And talking about Black culture, I had to bring the music, and I don't know, and it was imperative to bring the music. It wasn't a question for me, and it's like a sci-fi documentary about queer people living the night scene. So music was a character as well. Yeah.
Thank you. And Natasha?
For me, I got in touch with my sound person, which was Clara Hancock, and I'd been already working on the kind of text for the film, and I knew I wanted something that would really just capture this idea and these things that I've been thinking about around the lines of Afrofuturism and speculative fiction and other worlds, and I really wanted the sound to really feel like you were somewhere else. And also as well, the film maybe originally was going to be some sort of audio essay, but then it expanded into all these different so it was writing, it was the visuals, it was the sound, and it was kind of the voiceover and things as well. So I kind of sent these keywords along to Clara that was like floating, something that embodies ghosts or spirits. Maybe there's certain little sounds that you hear sometimes or you don't hear other times, or if you listen again or watch again, you'll pick up on those sounds. So something that felt really quite haunting, I think, as well. There's parts of it that are quite dramatic when talking about certain things, but then there's also this kind of ambient feel towards it that also almost feels like you're just on a boat kind of floating along. I really like that idea, and it kind of combined with sound that I'd kind of recorded at the beach, which was waves. I visited the ports that were important, so I visited River Clyde and Leith Port to get actually footage or sound footage from then. And then some shells as well, so cowrie shells. So I really wanted those kind of first-hand experiences of recording them. That felt important to me to capture those sounds in the spaces that we're in, or the context they were in, and then bring them back into kind of the editing studio, or into that space where they can be reworked and then added along with these kind of hauntological sounds that hopefully felt like it was drifting. You were drifting through the film, or drifting to another place, or drifting on land, underwater, on land, underwater.
Thank you. And Topher? Can't hear you, darling.
I just put I just unmuted me.
I know.
I mean, I think I love Young Fathers. I think they're amazing, and I'm a great fan. And I was a fan before I got the chance to collaborate. And they're a Scottish band, and I love the fact that they're a Scottish band, and they're black people from Scotland, and all that sort of stuff was in itself kind of exciting. And Chaos's voice was just is the vulnerable counterpoint to some of the violence of the images that you see, and we just needed, as Diego said, it needed. I'm not necessarily interested in representing black music. I'm interested in the black creativity of the music. So the ways in which, whatever that might mean. So the ways in which the three of them collaborated. G obviously is not black, is white, but the three of them collaborating with these images to kind of to take us to a different kind of emotional, or allow us a different kind of emotional kind of experience was really, really important to me. And Pot of Gold, the notion of this the richness of Chaos's voice and the vulnerability and the suggestion of something that had a huge amount of kind of history and wealth, as much as what was happening with what potentially could be something that happens to the reality of that Fetish kind of aspires to in the future. And I think the music does that, is Fetish's voice, I suppose, I guess, and allows us with the drum, with the soul, and with the kind of the kind of electronic kind of madness of it all to take us into a different kind of dimension. But I also took a very, very, very clear decision not to have any Atmos, not to have any kind of generated sound from Fetish or the streets of New York. I wanted it to be very much about images and sound, great escape, and that was something that was an experiment. It was an experiment to see what that might reveal. Yeah.
Well, thank you. On that note, we're going to have to end our wonderful discussion. Thank you, Topher. Thanks, Natasha, and thanks, Diego, for your wonderful films. The program, which is Destroy, Disturb, Disrupt, is still online until Sunday, so you can see that. And have the films are Blackness, Umbilic, Bateria, B&B, Black Muslim and Bi, Bloom, Call Me By Your Name, Fetish, and The Attendant by Isaac Julian. I interviewed Isaac Julian because he couldn't make this conversation, and that interview we saw last night, but will also be available online, where Isaac talks about kink and fetishization and slavery and whip. So, and his future artwork as well, which which you will see. Slavery and whips, not slavery and rape. Rape. Somebody in the thing just put, yeah, whips, darling. So thank you. So I have to read what's down there as well. So thank you. So thank you very much for attending. Those people who were there, and bless you. Thank you for your films, and great to see you guys. Signing off now.
Bye bye.
so
Thank you
much.
very much.
Bye. Thanks for coming. Thanks for being.